Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. In this update, we're going to tear into Hurricane Milton, which is back up to a Category 5 catastrophic level hurricane, and it's still taking aim on the west coast of Florida. I'll have the details in what's going on right now as we head late into our Tuesday night. And we are expected within 24 hours to see this impacting the coast of Florida as it makes its way across the peninsula on your Wednesday night. Details on all of that coming up right now. Let's take a look. You're looking at a forecast model, future radar, of the storm system as it works its way from its present position. Let's dive in right now and show you what this storm system is doing as we take a look basically in close. So you can take a look and see here the latest measurements. Now, we're getting some data also from a recent NOAA hurricane flight that's coming in, so we'll get that to you as well. But for now, let's pause this, take it back, and give you the latest on the details presently. So right now, it is measuring out to 908 millibars, so it's strengthened over what it was earlier this afternoon as we went through at the 1 o'clock hour. It was 915 millibars, so 908 is lower. The pressure is lower, it is stronger, and a well-defined eye. We'll look at the current look at the satellite loop of Milton here shortly, but for now, let's take a look at this forecast track. Now, again, the latest and current conditions. Have a measurement, and I'm looking up at the latest here coming in and see if I have anything new, because that's always important to try to get the latest information out to you. First and foremost, 908 is still the center pressure. We do have a maximum sustained wind 168 miles per hour around the eye wall, and that is the latest location of the storm system. Now, the hurricane track of the reconnaissance aircraft there in purple, let's see what their latest measurement is. This track is going south as the pilots are turning around the other side of the storm, and here is what they are measuring. Surface winds out this far away, 45 miles per hour. They're at a flight level of about 3,000 meters, so that's give or take real close to about 10,000 feet off the ocean surface. Not too awful high. Temperature of 54 degrees up there at the aircraft level. So this is the type of instrumentation that they go over, fly through and into the eye of the storm, and use a dropson to drop down into the eye of the storm to measure the pressure as that instrumentation works its way down. So they'll continue to take measurements on Hurricane Milton as we go through the overnight hours. Now, let's get you back to the details. You can see Tampa off in the distance. Here's the present location. Let's give you a line measurement on how far away it is, the outer part of the eye wall, and Tampa. And we'll update you on the forecast as well. A little bit of a southern shift over our last update. Notice this, that the miles in distance is about 380 miles away, and Milton is picking up movement or speed by only a couple of miles per hour. It's 11 miles per hour to the northeast now, heading toward the Gulf Coast of Tampa. So that is a look at the very latest with Milton at this particular time. Now let's take a look at this forecast track and the timing for you. So we'll zoom in just a little bit more to get you in a little closer. And now what you focus on the eye of the hurricane here as we go through, and we'll put the expected track up, the latest track, official forecast here from the National Hurricane Center. So this line, notice how it's farther south now from Tampa and a little bit more close to Cape Coral, Florida. So let's see what this model says. So this model is going to be very close to that as we put this into motion through the overnight tonight. And by the time we're rising and shining 8 o'clock in the morning, the outer bands will be getting ready to make their way in. Now, what about the winds? Will they be hurricane force yet? No, not on coastal parts of Florida. However, as we go into the morning hours, the winds will be increasing. The rain will begin in earnest and last from 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and in some locations not relent until we get into the midday hours, around noon on Thursday, as this crosses across the peninsula. So things get started here. Watch the eye wall working its way in the general direction of Tampa and St. Petersburg, as well as the folks just south here, Sarasota, Florida, Clearwater, Sarasota. So again, I've been talking about this fact, the fact that where the eye is going to be real critical. Along the eye wall and point south is where we'll see the greatest storm surge. That's a 10 to 15 foot wall of water that will be heading toward coastal Florida. That wall of water combined with the tidal forces, will be up to about 15 feet in places, and that will allow this wall of water to make its way well inland. And the wind will be hurricane force for a fairly wide area around this storm system. And when will the tropical storm force winds start making their impacts known? Well, likely as we go through the midday hour, it will start increasing in a great way. Now, here is a look at what we call the wind radii. And where you see this southern bright circle, that is the area that we expect to see hurricane force winds making their way in as we go into 7 p.m. So it's likely between 4 and 7 p.m. we will be increasing along coastal Florida, along the Gulf Coast side here, winds increasing from tropical storm force of around 40 miles per hour to 74 miles per hour and beyond. And again, the greatest storm surge in that same area. Let me turn this off so we don't get too much information on this all at once. Continuing the forecast track of the storm. This model has it moving very close to what the official forecast is, making landfall somewhere between Sarasota and the Port Charles area, Charlotte area rather, and not far from Cape Coral. Zooming in a little bit closer, you can see some other places that'll be in the path here. We're looking at Venice, we're looking at Englewood, and again, here we have this basic bay here with barrier islands right here, and the winds coming in this way, causing walls of water to be pushing in toward Northport and towards Port Charlotte and the Cleveland area as well. So again, we don't want to focus on exactly where it does make landfall. The impacts will be felt great and wide. Now, what does this mean for Tampa? As we take a look at the Tampa-St. Pete area here, what you're going to notice is very heavy bands of rain, offshore flows of wind from Clearwater and on up to the areas near Bayonet Point. So basically, all of these areas will be getting inundated, and we're now talking about rainfall amounts upwards of 18 inches of rain. The time frame on this is around the 8 to 11 time frame, and that is local out Eastern time for the making landfall out there. Then the system will continue to work its way across central Florida as we go through the early morning hours, continuing to bring heavy rain, and the hurricane force winds are expected to last across the entirety of the peninsula of Florida. As it works its way off onto the Atlantic side, it will eventually weaken to tropical storm force winds, but level 2 hurricane winds are forecast as it works its way through areas near Sebring and Hee Haw Junction right behind my earlobe over here. So major damage. Strong hurricane force winds through this storm as it makes its way across. And that is a look at your current conditions. Now, as we take a look at those current conditions, let me go ahead and put up here. I will go ahead and click on the look at the latest infrared satellite imagery. So now it's loading up what's going on, and we'll see actually what it looks like right now. We were just looking at a forecast model of the radar. Look at how perfectly round this hurricane is. And look at this little eye. It's like it's an eyeball winking at us right here. What you're looking at is this sinking cone of air in the center of the storm here. And around it, we have very high, very cold cloud tops that are surrounding this eye of the storm. Let's measure the distance across the eye of the storm here real quick, because it has been averaging around 10 miles or so for the diameter of the eye wall. So let's see if I can put this up here. It maybe is not allowing me to do. There we go. So this is almost 18 miles across the eye at the present time with the latest satellite imagery. Measuring north to south, it's about the same, about 18 miles. So the eye wall has expanded out a little bit, and when it shrinks, that's when we get stronger winds that are a little bit more focused. So 10 to 20 mile radius of the eye is what we have right now. Very well-defined eye as well, as we spoke of earlier. So that is a look at the latest with Hurricane Milton right now. We do have the ability to look at other data from buoys, and we can look at those right quick and see what kind of winds that we're measuring around this storm system out there. There's not a lot of data out here in the middle of the Gulf here, but let's take a look and see what we can see. First, we'll take a look at ship observations and turn those on. I'm asking for temperature information. Look how close this ship is. What? That is ridiculously close as we take a look. That's an 81-degree ship reading observation as of 7 p.m. It's 81 degrees, and the pressure there where the ship was, 1,000 millibars. Standard sea level pressure, what's average on the surface of the sea level, is 1013.2. So it's a little lower than average. So we know it drops significantly down to levels that are near record of around 908 millibars right now as it works its way through. So an incredible drop of about 100 millibars over that short distance of time. And that, folks, is what pushes the wind and drives the winds. That's all we're seeing from ships right now. Let's see if we have any buoy observations. And I'm going to change this. Oh, there are a few more buoys out here, but nothing real close that we're getting information from at this particular time. Let's look at the wind gusts measured by these buoys and the ships, and we're seeing 34 mile per hour gusts, 36 mile per hour gusts. So it gives you a feel for, we've had plenty of 30 mile per hour day winds wise across the nation. You know what that feels like, but look how much it intensifies with winds that are nearly 200 miles per hour as far as gusts go near the eye of Hurricane Milton. So that is a look at the latest with regards to Milton. Let me see if I can go ahead and let this loop just a little bit here for us as we put this into motion. So now it'll take a look at the loop, and you can see its movement over the last few scans. The eye staying well defined. It's moving out and it's making its way towards the west coast of Tampa and Florida. So that is a look at the hurricane. Now let's take a look at some modeled rainfall potential with this storm system as it works its way through. So the number one risk for the storm as far as the coast of Florida goes will be the storm surge, 10 to 15 feet. We'll show you more on that in a second. Secondly, rainfall potential with the storm system. So what I'm going to do is pull up some forecast model data here, and we'll switch this over to rainfall here. So give me one moment while I load this up. We'll turn off some of these digits here, and we're going to look way out in time here. We're going to go out about 48 hours, and we're going to look at this high-res model here, and we're going to go for forecast rain amounts here. So let me see if I can find that for you on this particular model. Okay, here we go. Reflectivity, lightning, max hail size. I don't think we need to worry about the hail size. I apologize. Thank you for being patient with me while I look for the precipitation, total precipitation. That's the field I want right there. Okay, so while this loads up, this is a look at the 48-hour time frame and how much rain are on these colors here. So you can see in the Tampa, St. Pete area, all the way in Sarasota and points north, this bright band here are the heavy estimated rainfall amounts. What does it mean? Let's go ahead and see if we can query this. And we're looking at between Spring Hill and Tampa, this model is forecasting the potential for 14 inches of rain. And as we look in a little bit closer, as it makes its way towards Orlando, 8 to 10 inches of rain there. And Winter Springs, on the way north towards Deltona and Edgewater, we have another 14-inch bullseye. So the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center advertising that we could see amounts locally upwards of 18 inches because we do have rain that has been making its way through the area now, and it will be continuing beyond the 48-hour window that we're showing here. Now, as we go down south, where we have the onshore winds and that surge, the storm surge, we're still going to have terrible amounts of rain, but notice how much lower it is, a half inch to an inch on that far south side, with most of the rain being focused up on the northern portion of the track of Hurricane Milton. So that's one thing to take a look at there. Now let's take a look and see if we can look at any other interesting things with regards to the forecast. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pressure, surface pressure. So let me see what this shows here. I'll put a contour up of the mean sea level pressure, and we'll load this up and see. There it is. Okay, so now that's at the 48-hour mark, and I'll go ahead and turn off this contour here of the precipitation because it's a little bit full. So now as we take a look at that pressure as it gets across Florida, let me go back to the time it makes landfall here, and we'll look at that real quickly. So as it's making landfall and we go in towards that 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening time frame, you can see all of these isobars making a beautiful ring around this nasty hurricane. And as it works its way in, what is the value of this pressure surface there? Apparently it's not going to plot that for me. Let me see if I can ask the computer. Nope, it won't let me ask. So the pressures with the storm system as forecast by the National Hurricane Forecast Center looking very low. And now let's take a look at their official cone forecast here. So here is a look at the cone forecast from the National Hurricane Center. This is what the latest update is for you as we head into our Tuesday evening. Here is the location of Milton now, and it is expected to make landfall somewhere between Tampa and Cape Coral, Florida. And most likely about somewhere near the center of that track is what is being expected at this particular time. Now, as we take a look at the average models, take a look at this. All of these lines, this is called a spaghetti plot, indicate the track that certain models, individual models, are forecasting. And when we pack them on top of each other, we can see that there's more of a consensus that somewhere between Sarasota and Cape Coral, most models have those that landfall taking place right there. Different strengths, different paths, as you can see, but many of them making landfall just south of the Tampa area here. And that's the latest that the models are doing. Now, this is about 48 hours out, 36 hours out, 24 hours out. So as we take a look at the forecast, we're starting to get some consensus here. And we know there's been evacuations that have been ongoing with the southerly shift. It may actually cause more folks to need to kind of get inland or at least out of the storm's path to escape things like the power outages and the flash flooding and flooding that will be going and ongoing. Now let's take a look at what the National Hurricane Center is saying with regards to this storm system. And for that, we're going to go right to their page with the very latest. So let's go there right now. This is a look at the tropical storm force winds that are expected from the hurricane as it works its way in. And we could see that those hurricane force winds in purple and tropical storm force winds that would be generally in the yellows and greater going to impact most of the peninsula of Florida. Now let's take a look at the arrival times of these winds. And this graphic here says the arrival time of the tropical storm force winds. Okay, so that's about that 39 to 40 mile per hour threshold. And this is going to be, I think, the earliest, let me double check that, earliest reasonable arrival time. So it could arrive to portions of Florida by 2 in the afternoon, but more certainly by the time we get to around 8 p.m. at night. So that is a look at the arrival times of those winds. Now let's take a look at the rainfall potential. We did look at one model on this. And again, this showing that the National Hurricane Center is showing this bullseye of rain near Tampa, near St. Petersburg, and where you see the reds, that we're talking about 12 to 16 inches of potential rainfall. That goes all the way up towards Orlando and then the northern shore of the Atlantic coast of central Florida, stopping and cutting off sharply at Jacksonville. So that's the expected rainfall potential with the storm system. Now storm surge, one of the number one threats. As we take a look at this, it's getting more focused between Tampa and points south as we go down towards Charlotte Harbor. We're expecting in Tampa 10 to 15 feet. The purple is 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. They have on their key up at the top 12 plus feet. So peak storm surge, if you can imagine a 12-foot wall of water with this storm as it works its way through, and it will push inland for dozens of miles, causing damage, along with the hurricane force winds that will be in that major category. What is the major category? Here we go. Let's take a quick reprieve and look at number one. So far, the lowest pressure measured from Milton that I'm aware of is 897 millibars, and that was last night when it was Cat 5. It has strengthened this evening and has gotten down close to that 900 millibar area once again at 908 millibars. So tonight, and it's expected to be Category 5 through the overnight hours, there is a chance that we could get very close to what it was last night, 897 millibars, or well, pray that it doesn't get down stronger than Rita, which is the number one strongest or lowest pressure creating hurricane in the history of the Gulf. So we'll be watching that very closely as well. Now, when we take a look at what else we have going on with regards to the hurricane, I wanted to point out with regards to the Saffir-Simpson scale. I'm trying to look and click at the same time here. The Saffir-Simpson scale showing Category 5 catastrophic damage is almost guaranteed with 157 plus mile per hour winds. And right now we're on the better side of 168 mile per hour. sustained winds. Gusts are close to 200 miles per hour. So the good news is if there is any, is that this is expected to make landfall somewhere close to a Category 4 storm, but likely a strong Category 4 storm. So we'll keep monitoring that. If your officials in your area are asking you to get out, then get out. Get inland, get to higher ground, and get away from this storm. I don't know that Florida has ever seen anything this strong in decades. So it is important to kind of follow your officials' guidelines with regards to evacuation. Expect power outages and water outages that could last not just days, but weeks or even months in some of the hardest hit areas. Now, as we go down south in Florida just a little bit, going back to the storm surge, because we're on the south side of the storm, you see how we have the red? We're still expecting incredible storm surge of up to 12 feet as far south as Bonita Beach. So that is where that cutoff is. And then it drops down. And when I say drops down, that's still a 6 foot average storm surge down in southern Florida. And as we get down toward the Keys and the Flamingo area, we're talking 3 to 5 feet of storm surge way down that far south. Storm surge is generally a little bit lower as we go north of the path of the storm. And that's because it's going to have the offshore winds that really push the waves a little bit back out towards sea and mitigate some of the storm surge potential. So dangerous hurricane taking place and taking shape in the state of Florida once again. And our thoughts, our prayers are going out to all of you impacted by this. Please heed the warnings. And again, we'll keep you updated right here. Make sure that you are heeding those warnings. And again, unbelievable strong hurricane that doesn't happen too often moving through the Gulf, Hurricane Milton, again, a Category 5 storm. Until next time, everyone, please stay tuned to me here. I'm Hutch Johnson, a meteorologist, 27 years of broadcast meteorology and some research, meteorology as well, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Drop me a note. Let me know where you're watching from. Do you have family in Florida? Have you ever experienced a hurricane? Put those in the comments. But until next time, please stay tuned to all the information that you can. Get out, stay safe, and have yourself a good Tuesday evening.